Somebody told me in Potomac, Maryland, the other day, that he contested for the state assembly in Andhra Pradesh, one of the constituencies. He spent some 25 crore rupees. రోజు కోటి రూపాయలు అయిపోయింది సార్, రోజంటే కోటి సార్ అని చెప్పండి. His words. His words. Sadly, he did not get elected because somebody has spent even more money. That's not what public life is about. That's not what politics is about. You want to create an India in 2039 which can actually beat the rest of the world, be where it ought to be, where our civilization, where our history deserve to put us. We want to fulfill our destiny, then we have to change these things. Healthcare, education, local governments, policing, justice, every single thing. There are simple answers, practical answers, low-cost answers. Nobody except the enemies of India would be opposed to them. Sadly, the people who should be friends of India, the people who should be leaders of India, have become enemies of India. That's what we're fighting. The fight is not between this party and that party. In every party there are wonderful people, but at large you're looking at the enemies of India versus the people, the friends of India, who want to transform India. That's the battle we're engaged in. You take local governments. When I asked Prasanna, he gave me reams and reams of literature on, for instance, the Los Angeles County of local government. I wanted to know the link between a county and the metropolitan cities versus other cities like we have Fremont or whatever, any other place. And we have so much literature. If I ask you to name the mayor of San Francisco or Los Angeles or New York City or London or Mexico City, most of you will be able to name most of them. But such a large gathering here from across the country, let me ask you a question. How many of you know the name of the mayor of Delhi or Calcutta or Delhi or Mumbai or Chennai? Any one of the cities. How many know at least one of them? I don't know either. Because they don't matter. What a disgrace. What a disgrace. This country is founded on local governments. This country, this nation started with local communities, self-governed. Then they organized themselves into states. Then the states came together as a painful necessity in order to strengthen themselves and protect their honor and their rights. And that's when the Declaration of Independence took place in 1776. Then the war, then the Constitution. But even then, they were very reluctant. They always thought the federal government was an evil necessity. Only Abraham Lincoln's intervention during the Civil War, his ferocious commitment to the preservation of the Union, and his creative interpretation of the Constitution, and his extraordinary leadership, despite very humble beginnings, that made what the federal government of the United States what it is today. The United States what it is today. But essentially this is a country of local governments. We can easily adapt many of these practices because we had this before anybody knew there was something called America. 1,000 years ago, in the Chola era, we had Uttara Merur inscription, which gave in detail an account of the local government's constitution, the way the leaders are elected, the way they are prevented from election. If a fellow did not render accounts for the public office he held earlier, he was disqualified 1,000 years ago in India. Do you remember that? Do you know that? If he did not render accounts in a village office that he held earlier, he would be disqualified. Not only he, but his son also would be disqualified. 2 generations they are disqualified. It was real. A place called Uttara Merur. Go and see the inscription. Read the history books. That's the culture we had. That's the ethos we had. That's the history we had. But today, they centralized government so much that people are utterly irrelevant. We converted people into mendicants. We can easily change that. It doesn't require money. It requires simply re-looking at the way we think of ourselves. Think of citizen as the center of the universe. The taxpayer is what matters. Everything is about the taxpayer and the citizen. There are no leaders. They are public servants who are elected to serve. If they choose to serve, they will. If they feel that they'll have to go back to their private lives, they'll happily go back to their private lives. They don't owe anything to anybody. Instead, we created a disgraceful situation where everything is centralized. A PM, CM, DM Raj, the third DM being district magistrate. As I keep telling many people, we have amended the constitution. I remember my ferocious debate with Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi in 1988 on 5th of February, when as a district magistrate I fought very hard with him about district governments. In fact, I coined the expression district governments in 1988 when I fought with him. But finally, something happened somewhere. Even now, Manishankar Iyer tells me, whenever he meets me, he says, the original father of panchayats. So the constitution was amended. I was delighted. 7,700 words. That's the length of the constitutional amendments in India relating to local governments. You know the length of the American Constitution, the total length of American Constitution? After 220 years, 7,400 words. The provisions relating to local governments alone in Indian Constitution run into a longer passage than the whole of American Constitution. But it's a shallow amendment. We just have a shell without substance. We have overstructured, underpowered local governments. That can be easily changed. People want it. They want control over their own lives. They don't want to go and beg for a borewell to an MP. They don't want MP lads. They don't want a minister or chief minister to decide what borewell should be dug where, which drain should be filled where, or cleaned up where. You don't have to have a situation where there's a power cut to ring up an MLA, sir, my area, power cut, sir, chapan, sir. What is this? What kind of a society is this? When there's no garbage cleared, you have to go after a minister with a petition. I remember vividly Mrs. Sonia Gandhi one day, she was telling C.K. Prahlada, the late C.K. Prahlada, my good friend, and I, along with others who were having lunch with her, and she was telling me, I went to Raebareli the other day for 5 days. I received thousands of people. They came with so many problems. The moment I look at one problem, hundreds more will come and gather around, and then they had another 100 problems. I was completely overwhelmed. These were her exact words. I did not know what to do. I felt completely at a loss and powerless. At least in my case, I can pick up the telephone and talk to a minister and say, please do something about some big project. But what is it we can do really? She was actually at a loss. We created a situation which is totally ungovernable. It's a myth. The whole elections are about which joker will be in power or which caste will be dominant. It's not about our country or our people. We have to give power back to the people. There's nothing bigger. And you are enjoying the fruits of local governments. Today, Prasanna, I think, was telling me about Cupertino on the one side of the road. On the other side, what's the city on the other side? Sunnyvale, yes. He was telling me on the left side, and as we were coming in the direction, I don't know, east, west, north, south, whatever I was coming, he was telling me on this side of the road, the properties are worth, let's say, $1 million. A similar property on this side of the road is only worth about $600,000, $500,000. Why? There is good schooling in Cupertino. Because local governments control the schooling. Because people are willing to pay more for properties, pay more in terms of taxes, because there is better government which is delivering better services.